Hello, everybody. It's Mary Lynn Harris of Hard at Work, and I'm doing this podcast series to really help business owners, CEOs, to really create an impactful legacy for their business, mostly to do with the workplace, the place, their people department. So today on my call, I have Bryant Galindo. Is that correct?
Yep.
And he's going to be doing a conversation with me today. So welcome, Bryant.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So one of the questions I always like to ask is how'd you get started doing what you're doing? Because I find it very interesting to find out how people get into what they're doing. But for Brian's case, it looks like he had set the intention he wanted to be a mediator from his profile on LinkedIn. That's what it looks like anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, many of us have a zigzag, and I'm always stuck in the zag, and I should be in the zig, you know. So anyway, so Brian, tell me how you got started doing what you're doing and what's your favorite part?
Yeah, of course. You know, as you mentioned, I did have an intention of wanting to become a mediator. I'm a lover of life, as I always like to say. And as a lover of life, what's more living than just people?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, as a millennial that is born in this altruistic, idealistic world or mindset, I really wanted to give back to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to figure out how to do that. At first, I thought it was going to be in a career in law. Was a paralegal for 2 years, realized it was nothing like Law and Order, and I did not like this at all. And so beautifully, actually, there was a instance at the law firm where one of the lawyers brought in a mediator to help mediate a case, and I sat in on that mediation. And I realized that my calling wasn't so much to go be positional and help argue these things. It was to be that man in the middle to help people bridge those divides and come to a place of resolution.
Right.
And so I ended up going to Columbia University, getting my master's degree in negotiation and conflict resolution, finding the one small apprenticeship with the federal government that actually helps people learn mediation skills. So I became a pro bono mediator for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, one of the youngest mediators on their staff. And then I graduated Columbia at the height of my life and just thinking, wow, like I really want to go do this.
Right.
And as I went to go venture off and see how that was going to be, I had a near-death experience that really brought me to my knees in a way that I never thought possible. But the beauty of rising from the ashes, or the proverbial like phoenix-like aspect of living, was that in rising up, my passion for mediation came to the forefront, where I wanted to build a business, not only mediating really intense business disputes, but also helping people from a proactive space deal with conflict in a way that would actually make me obsolete. And since then, that has been 3 years in the making, I've been building a business called CollabsHQ that does just that. Not only teaching people a process that I built called collaborative disagreement, but also mediating, creating online programs, a bunch of different service offerings that really bring to the forefront how do you communicate in this ever-changing world through a fast-paced nature with heart.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I was just thinking, oh, okay, we could really use you right now in our community.
Yes, I get that a lot.
I'm sure you get that a lot. So what are some of the biggest obstacles you find that people have when they're in disagreement?
I think it starts with themselves. There's a lot of preconceived notions of what it means to have what it is you want. And so a lot of the work that I do with individuals is to create a pause, a very strategic pause, I might add, so that they can come inward and recognize what are the stories they're telling themselves around these disagreements, and how is that impacting their ability to communicate around these difficult issues. Because a lot of the conflicts I deal with are at the founder level, the CEO level. So it deals with money, business vision, strategy, usually equity. And so when it comes to these things, the issue is usually a projection of maybe an issue of self-worth, an issue relating to not being able to vocalize things proactively. And so while I deal with the business problem at hand, I also deal with the sustainability component of let's create some behaviors and a mindset shift that'll help you proactively deal with these types of conflicts so that it doesn't get so out of control.
Right, right. And so is there anything in particular scenario that you can share with us how you did that?
Of course. So I a common disagreement that I deal with is equity restructuring conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of money is on the line. It's usually a startup or a business that has just gotten funding. They did a Series A. They now finally have $10 million. And so they have like dollar signs in their eyes. And that's a lot of money. And
Right,
so while one person might have come in saying, a 50-50 split is really equal in the beginning,
right,
they're realizing that they put in more hours, more energy, more
right.
time into the business, and let's say their other co-founder, and they're like, I actually want to redo this equity split. I actually find 60-40 is better. Now imagine the other side or the
Yeah,
other person being like, wait, what? We just got all this money and now you want more of the pie? No, that's not going to fly.
yeah.
And so in order to come in, I will do some worksheets with them to
Mm-hmm.
kind of help them understand the story behind it. So they start talking about it. Okay, what did it feel like? What did it look like when you first got into business with one another? Okay, great. What has the day-to-day look like? Who contributes? How much do you contribute? What is the perception level around the contributions of the other side? And then when they actually sit down with me, I invite them to actually share that with one another through an open mediation format so
Mm-hmm.
that they can see where they overlap and when there is perceptual issues that
Right,
one side is having that the other side may not be aware of. And then that's where it gets really difficult because you're like, wait, you thought that about me? Oh no. Oh, and then that's where the fighting happens.
right,
But then that's why I'm there. I'm the
right.
neutral third party. So helping them get through that uncomfortability is my forte. And then when they get to the other side and they're able to talk about these things, they can clear the air and look at it objectively and see, oh, wow, you are putting in more time. I don't put in weekend time. I go out into the Bahamas and like go sail on a boat. You are in the office working. Maybe you are owed that 5 or extra 10%. Let's talk about
Right, right.
that.
Yeah, I would think that in a situation like that, like you're saying, the perceptions about who's doing what and what the other person thinks the other person is or is not doing. I could see a lot of that mixed up messages that would get kind of construed into
Hmm.
more of a negative situation than positive side of it.
Precisely.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back a bit when you said
Hmm.
you had a near life experience or change or awakening, if you will. So, what was going on in your life when that happened?
So I had just come back. I went to Columbia University. I lived in New York for 3 years, and I found that the city, while very exhilarating, also burned me out. I was go, go, go. I was working full time. I was also going to school full time. So you can
Right.
imagine I was at my wit's end. So I'm based in Los Angeles, and LA is a different scene. There's nature, you go hiking, and I wanted to come back. I wanted to reset myself and find that next step here.
Right.
And so the near death experience was that I had gone to a party and someone actually was, how do I describe it? Had come to me and wanted to start a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was protecting my partner at the time, and I did not want to start a fight. But
Mm-hmm.
the fight blew up, and he ended up stabbing me in the neck
Okay.
and punching my jugular and being zero point 0.1 centimeters away from me nearly dying.
Wow.
And so the police came, they caught him, he was sentenced to jail for aggravated assault, and it basically spiraled me into a depression because I got into a place of my life where I realized, what is it that I really wanted? Was
Mm-hmm.
it the prestige? Was it the money? Was it the success that was pushing me forward? I had gone to Columbia, Ivy League, I was one of a top mediator, all these things that tell you you have made it. And
Right.
yet here I was struggling to just define what living was like on a day-to-day basis after
Mm-hmm.
the attack.
Right.
And so for me, rising from the ashes meant taking a pause.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped job searching. I
Mm-hmm.
stopped everything except going out into nature every day. That
Right.
was my respite. And I found that the beauty that the world holds was a direct reflection of what I wanted,
Right.
which was harmony,
Mm-hmm.
balance, security, these intangibles that we feel. And yet why is it that work somewhat doesn't have that?
Right.
And so I wanted to bridge the two, which led me to create my business.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, because when you go through that experience, something is awakened in you, and you actually can look at that or be directed that way to do
Mm-hmm.
what you really want to do, inspired or directed or however you use it as. Yeah.
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 And I would say that it grew my heart,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave me the ability to empathize in a way towards different levels of pain.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to go into some intense mediations or conflict situations where people are screaming, and I just sit there. I'm like, okay. I'm just like, when you face death, there's not much really that like bothers you. You're just like, okay, well, like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Like, why is this screaming? Why are you doing this? And it has led me to, my vision statement is to build a collaborative revolution that fuses heart and mind into a persuasive force for collaborating past differences. The
Right.
heart and mind component is very important,
Yeah.
because I went to school and learned about conflict resolution, but they teach you models, they
Right.
teach you theories, they teach you how to like structure something to get to a given place, but they never talk about the emotional component, the heart place. And it's so integral to have both into a space that allows you to not only talk about these things, but also to feel them so that you can get through the cathartic experience to get to the other side.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah. That's the sole being of, creating an impactful legacy is dealing
Mhm.
with that core. Because, like you were saying, so many people get lots of money and then they start squabbling, and you have all these other issues going on besides
Yep.
that. And so what I find is quite often, even if you're bootstrapping it, you're not really looking after yourself, nor are you looking after the people that are working with you, or whether they're customers or partners or whatever. And so what happens is that part of the heart and the soul, as you were saying, gets left behind. And then all of a
Yep.
sudden they've gone to maybe millions, billions of dollars of business, and they look back and they say, "Where is everybody?" And nobody's left because they just can't deal with the silence. I guess it's almost like having a lot of silence treatment. Yeah.
Yep.
So I totally get what you're saying by the heart and the soul of, merging the two together, the head with the heart and soul. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very good. So what couple of stories can you share that, you think that maybe people should take a look at before they call you as the mediator to come to the table?
Was the question what kind of sources?
What kind of tips or ideas or
Oh,
suggestions that maybe you can, or insights, people should look at before they need to be calling you?
I always like to ask the question, are you willing to see a different perspective?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, why?
Mm-hmm.
That's the basic question I always ask to any discovery call client.
Right.
Because if they say no, why would I try to do the heavy lifting of trying to get underneath all of this? And then you just say, nope, I'm stuck in my position.
Yeah.
Because flexibility is key.
Mm-hmm.
No one is right 100% of the time.
Right.
And if you can come at it with a flexible, resilient mindset, there is a greater ability for you to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Tip-wise, strategy-wise, I'm a fan of writing things down. I like to put 2 columns down. This is my perspective of the issues. I write down everything. And then I take off my hat and I put on their hat and I get into their shoes and I say, how would they look at this? Like, where have I faulted?
Right.
Because there's a theory in conflict resolution called the spiral of misunderstanding, which always says that one misunderstanding begets another.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can track where you are on that spiral, you have a greater chance of actually de-escalating the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you see that, one of the beginning things is name calling. You name call the other person liar. They name called you back something. But you're working into the conflict dynamic, and there's a reason why there's these international conflicts that are intractable, like say the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, to name one, because these have so many different misunderstandings compacting one another that trying to unearth all of them and clear them all is very difficult. So if you find yourself in a business dispute that's really intense, let's say at the co-founder level or executive level, you need to ask yourself those questions. If it's more of a disagreement around, I think quintessentially, there's different departments in startups or even businesses. Let's say it's operations or marketing, and it's just a simple subjective disagreement. You may want to just ask yourself, what's better for the client? What's better for the customer? And go from that angle instead of personalizing the issue.
Right.
So there's so many different ways to tackling it, but I always say it starts with you, because you're the one that's in charge of yourself. No one can make you feel anything.
Right.
And so if you can really stay empowered, stay really strong in what you're bringing to the table, the tips and strategies that I give you will actually stick. If not, then it won't.
Yeah,
sure.
It's so true, because most people think they're right?
Exactly. And those people, those are very hard to help, I must say. Because if they think they're right all the time, then why would you hire me to help you see something else? There's just, I'm willing to work with the people who want to change and who want to grow, and that understand that being assertive is different than being aggressive.
Right. I totally get that. Yeah. Because, working with somebody who's always got to be right about every situation. Like you said, you have to walk away, because you just can't. You can't even ask a question without them getting...
Exactly. And there's all of this talk about flexing your style, like if they make decisions through data, presented in a data way. Like, I'm not talking about those people. Yeah. I get it. There's people with different decision-making processes, management styles, communication styles. That's where you work to collaborate to get to a nice little middle ground. I'm talking about the really intense, toxic, high stakes situations that require a nuanced view that doesn't always have a black, right or wrong answer.
Right. No, I totally get what you were saying. I was just thinking my own experience of how often I'd work with somebody who has to have their own way, and there's no way to remove or try to negotiate with them on a much smaller scale than what you do, I'm sure. But yeah, like to say, it still comes up, right? So you have a middle ground somewhere that you can negotiate, or you just walk away from it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So tell me some of the best clients you like to work with. Why?
I love those people who are hungry for change. I've worked with boomers, Gen Xers, millennials. I will say millennials are my favorite, mainly because I'm a millennial. And so there's the same communication pattern, but the common element to all of my clients is that they want to change and learn. Right. And they're willing to get uncomfortable. So whether those are founders, or usually first-time founders, or executive managers, sometimes first-time managers, I work with individuals who want a different perspective around how they communicate, and to bridge those divides and become a leader in of themselves. So they always care about their legacy. They're wanting to do something better. They have an altruism built in that is unquestionable.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, yeah, it's always better to work with somebody that wants to change, they're willing to anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And that hits the right price point, right?
Okay, so can you tell us how they would get somebody to get a hold of you if they want to work with you? They've liked what you've said so far, and so how would they find you and go from there?
So I have a website, Collabs, CollabsHQ.com. And then I have my own personal email, which is Bryant@CollabsHQ.com. Most people find me through my Medium articles. I have a lot of Medium articles out there. And so they'll either email me, or they'll go through one of my marketing pipelines and schedule a 20-minute discovery call just to see if we're the right fit. I tailor all of my solutions to the situation at hand. So sometimes people will come to me saying, hey, I need mediation. I'm like, great, let's talk. We talk, and I'm like, oh, you don't really need mediation. What you need is training. Yeah. So why don't I just do a workshop for you lower price point. You see if this is something that can actually stick, and then we do some one-on-one coaching to help you. Like, oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I have different services. I have a value ladder, so things that different price points where clients can work at with me. I'm just more interested in making sure that the work that I do sticks. And so I'm not just a Band-Aid. I want sustainable change.
Right. Yeah, who doesn't want it? So in your collaborative kind of workplace or company, do you work with other people in your company, or are you just running solo right now?
So it's evolved. So I started off like solo, then I had a co-founder. Now he's a strategic partner. I have a list of contractors I work with, designers. I'm toying right now with the idea of licensing out my programs.
Yeah.
So building a network of different coaches that teach my methodology. So I'm at a pivotal spot right now where I could scale, but I'm deciding whether or not that's what I want to do.
Right. Yeah, because you got to really consider, because you're going to lose a percentage of that scalability, that control.
The control, it's what I really, is that really what I want to do?
Right.
You know, these are all questions that any person should ask themselves when they own a business.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you're just going to stay solo, you're going to just do everything with yourself and how you want it. And if you bring in other people, they might add their own nuances into it, right? And it may or may not work. But,
correct. Then I might have my own disagreements, right?
You have your own disagreement with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bryant, can you just tell us, give us one tip of how somebody could do something differently today after this call?
You know, the thing that pops up is that if you're experiencing really intense conflict with someone and you need to stay centered, self-awareness is key, and you're just trying to change something. I'm a big fan of carrying something in your pocket. So either it's a coin or like a little totem or whatever that is, like some object. Because most people react to disagreement. They don't respond.
Right.
And if you want to be in a space to respond, you need to train yourself to do that. So if you want to go out and do something a little different, this could even apply in your marriage, in your partnerships, in your relationships. Carry something in your pocket to remind yourself to just pause for one extra second. It'll really help you create that little bit of space that you need so that you don't react in a fit of rage, name calling, and so that everyone can just stay happy at the end of the day.
Right. No, that's really good. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much, Bryant. It's been great to have you on the call today. You even have shared a few laughs. That's good.
Perfect. Thank you.
So anyway, we'll be chatting with you, everybody, soon, and Bryant's call will be available in the next few weeks. So check back with us, and it's the link is podcast.partatworkonline.org, and that's where you find everybody's interview. So look forward to chatting with you all soon. Thank you so much.